Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the opening ceremony for this year's Virtual FACT Conference. No matter where you're watching, we're so glad that you're here with us.
You want to see the next slide? Thanks. I'm Angela, one of the variety show coordinators this year.
And I'm Abby, the other variety show coordinator. We're so excited to see everyone here and can't wait to get FACT started. Just a heads up that we'll be doing a roll call shortly for all the schools present this year, so get pumped and show some schools pride.
That's us. As you can see, we have a lot of fun workshops in store for you starting tomorrow at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. If you can, check out the first networking session we have right after opening ceremony. We also have an amazing variety show lined up to end FACT on Sunday. This schedule can be found on our FACT website, fact.psauiuc.org.
This event could not be possible without PSA Board, our facilitators and delegates, variety show performers, and more. But there are a group of people we'd like to give special recognition to. Along with us, as your V-Show coordinators, we have our amazing FACT Pack committee who have worked so hard since the summer to put this conference together.
Now to introduce them, we got Renzo, who is a computer science and music major, and Mark, who is a kinesiology major for Team FACT.
Ooh. And next we have Francis, a junior in economics and philosophy, and Janine, a senior in economics for hospitality.
Next, our marketing chairs are Jasmine, who majors in industrial design, and Emily, who majors in sustainable design for marketing.
Ooh. Next up, we have Brian, a senior in media and cinema studies, and Melencio, a senior in integrative biology for our campus ambassadors.
Next, we have our media chairs, Gio, who's majoring in technical systems and management, and Nick, who's majoring in kinesiology.
And next we have Joaquin, our treasurer, who majors in biochemistry, and Shayna, who majors in computer science, our IT. Ooh.
And last, but definitely not least, our FACT coords, Micah Padilla and Lorenzo McKnight. Lorenzo says that his favorite FACT memory was his first ever workshop during freshman year, which was making Filipino breakfast. He really enjoyed it because he loves Filipino food, and it was his first time meeting people from the MAFA sphere.
And Micah's favorite FACT memory was being a facilitator assistant for the Puso Foundation. They showed her how she can pursue her career aspirations and give back to the community through nonprofit work. She doesn't have to give up her love for community engagement just because she's pursuing a career in STEM. Woo, let's give it up for FACT coords.
Yeah! Now, here are our FACT coords to give their opening remarks.
Hello, my name is Micah Padilla.
Hello, my name is Lorenzo Magnaye, and we are your 29th annual FACT coordinators. The theme for this year is Lakas ng Pagsama, Strength in Community. Strength refers to the power an individual has to enact positive change within their community, and community refers to the solidarity and support of people from different backgrounds and identities.
Given the rise in anti-Asian hate, as well as an increase in POC struggle throughout recent years and during the pandemic, we really wanted to focus on community building for this year's conference. For Filipino Americans and other marginalized communities worldwide, we wish to show our support and solidarity.
We'd like to thank our FACT Pack, Team FACT, and PSA Board for putting in countless of hours in making this conference possible.
We'd also like to thank our facilitators, delegates, and sponsors for ensuring their support of the Filipino Americans Coming Together conference throughout the pandemic.
Again, thank you all for coming, and we hope you have a great FACT weekend.
Thank you, Micah and Renzo. Now we have PSA UIUC's president, Jean Carlos.
Hello everyone, my name is Jean Carlos and I'm the president of the Philippine Student Association at UIUC for the 2021 to 2022 academic year. I would like to thank you all on behalf of our organization for making it to the Filipino Americans Coming Together conference this year. I still can't believe that it's already FACT's 29th year and also its second virtual year. It doesn't feel as if 4 years have already passed since I first sat as a FACT delegate in one of the big lecture rooms at Lincoln Hall, hearing the opening ceremony speech from the FACT 2018 conference during my freshman year. Through my experiences as a delegate my freshman year, then as a facilitator assistant my sophomore year, as well as a member of the FACT Pack in my junior year, I was able to witness the inner workings and impact that this conference has to those who attend it. It feels surreal to be making this speech in front of you all in my final year as a student here at UIUC and PSA. PSA has, for more than 100 years since its establishment in 1919, aimed to expand its influence not only to the Filipino community but to others as well. Our organization has held many cultural awareness events, including events like Tagalog classes, a Filipino American History Month presentation at our general meeting, and movie nights that highlight various issues faced by the Filipino community. We have partnered with various organizations to establish connections, including schools and organizations in the Midwest and nationwide. We will continue to pursue connections and expanding our reach while also retaining an inclusive environment. For the past 28 years, the FACT Conference has upheld PSA's mission statement by encouraging the education and awareness of Filipino identity and culture through the various workshops held during the duration of the conference. From social justice workshops to increase delegates' awareness of issues in today's society, to cultural expression workshops to better understand ourselves and Filipino culture, as well as career panels and networking sessions to expand our delegates' outreach and understanding of various fields. The FACT Conference has no shortage of resources to facilitate the growth of its participants. Our organization strives to continue expanding this mission towards our fellow Filipino American organizations in the Midwest and beyond. The last year and a half have proved to be a very challenging time to most, if not all of us. The global pandemic and the virtualization of the majority of our student life marks only a few of the obstacles that were handed to us. Through your participation in this online conference, you are contributing to showing the strength that we can have as a community. With your desire to connect with each other despite the struggles, as well as to continue learning and expanding your experiences, we truly are giving strength to our community. The world will only continue to change and bring more challenges for us to face. I hope that the lessons you learn and the experiences you've encountered during this conference will fuel and increase your drive to continue supporting the communities around you and making an impact in the world. Again, I would like to thank everyone listening right now for their participation in FACT 2021. I would like to give my thanks to the Filipino Americans Coming Together Conference coordinators, Renzo Magnaye and Michael Padilla, as well as their FACT Pack, whose organization and planning made the 29th year of FACT possible. I would like to congratulate you all on a job well done. I hope you all are excited as I am for what's to come in the next few days, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak tonight. Thank you.
Beautifully said, Jean. Now let's welcome our MAFA representatives attending this year.
Hello, FACT. We are your MAFA 2021-2022 Executive Board. I'm Sophia. I am the president for MAFA this year, and I go to University of Wisconsin-Madison.
Hi, everyone. My name is Gabriel Akko, and I am the Vice President External for this year, and I am a senior attending the University of Illinois at Chicago.
Hey y'all, my name's Kathy Javier. I am your Secretary of Cultural Affairs this year, and I attended Oakland University.
Mabuhay everyone, my name is Ashley Marasigan. I'm your treasurer this year, and I attend The Ohio State University.
Hi guys, my name is Alyssa. I am the current co-outreach chair, and I go to the University of Illinois at Chicago.
Hey MAFA, I'm Ben Enriquez, and I'm one of the co-outreach chairs, and I'm attending the University of Wisconsin-Madison.
Hi Midwest, my name is Rebecca. I'm currently a sophomore at Eastern Michigan University, and I'm your guys' events coordinator this year.
Hey, I'm Jacob Chavez. I'm from IUPUI, and I'm a senior, and I am your MAFA media director.
We would like to give a warm welcome to everyone at FACT, and just a little about us. MAFA is here to foster a safe, inclusive space for members in the Midwest to engage in social consciousness regarding Filipino culture and issues. And we also help to define and cultivate a Midwest Filipino American identity. We aim to bridge members to the greater network of the Filipino community and explore personal and professional opportunities and resources, as well as exploring experiences. A little bit about what we do. We host events and leadership networking opportunities, as well as we provide resources to all the schools, and we would love to attend even more schools events throughout the year.
Make sure to keep up with us through our video announcements, which we post on social media such as Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. You might have seen some of our most recent posts on My Families, which we're restructuring this year with my co-outreach chair, Alyssa. So keep an eye out for more updates on that, and make sure to re-register your My Family as the form is due on Monday, November 15th. And lastly, we'll have an announcement on MFAS by our events coordinator.
Speaking of updates, I think this is one of the most anticipated updates on where is MFAS going to be this year. And we're happy to announce that we are teaming up with UW-Madison's FOSO to host MFAS in Wisconsin this year. We're so excited to see you guys in person in what feels like it has been forever.
So with that being said, we would love to introduce all our schools that are attending from Minnesota, from Wisconsin, Illinois, Michigan, Missouri, Ohio, and Indiana. So with that being said, this is MAFA Executive Board for this year. We hope that you guys come out to our events, and we hope that you guys enjoyed a FACT conference hosted by PSA at U of I. Thank you so much for your time, and have a great time at the conference, guys. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks so much, MAFA. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for MFAS. Be sure to show some love to your MAFAMs during FACT. Now let's begin our roll call. Just a note that some of these videos were filmed pre-COVID, so stay safe out there.
Let's begin roll call.
First, we got DePaul.
Next up is Illinois State University. Wow.
Yeah. Next, we have Loyola University Chicago.
Ooh. Yeah. Oh.
Good? All right, 1, 2, 3.
Thank you to the University of Illinois at Chicago.
Indiana University Bloomington.
I-N-D-I-A-N-A! Reppin' IUFAA! I-N-D-I-A-N-A! Reppin' IUFAA!
I-N-D-I-A-N-A! Thank you, Indiana University Bloomington.
I'm Sosino to IUPUI.
Thank you, IUPUI.
Yeah, thank you, Purdue.
Next up, University of Iowa. Woo, welcome.
Next, we have Andrews University.
Thank you, Eastern Michigan.
Next, we have Kalamazoo College.
And next up, Michigan State. Woo!
Next, we have Oakland University. University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. Now we have
University of Michigan, Dearborn. Welcome.
Next we have Wayne State University.
Woo, woo, woo. And then University of Minnesota.
Next we have McAllister College.
Woo, woo, woo. All right, thanks, Lou.
Woo. Next we have The Ohio State University.
Woo, 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 woo. And now we have the University of Toledo. Woo, woo, woo.
Next we have Marquette University.
And the University of Wisconsin-Madison.
Next we have the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee.
Welcome. And the Milwaukee School of Engineering. Woo, woo, woo.
And now we have Carroll University. Welcome.
Welcome. Woo, woo, woo. And last but not least, let's give it up for our whole school, UIUC.
Okay, give it a couple seconds.
5, 6, 7, 8.
PSA of my God, let me hear you alive. Ooh, 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 ooh.
Welcome to all of our MAFA schools. That was an amazing roll call. Thank you for everyone who sent in their roll calls.
Now, fact isn't fact without merch, so I think it's a good time to have a good giveaway. This is just the first one that we're doing at FACT this year, so keep an eye out for the next one.
For a chance to win a FACT tapestry by artist Bert Monterona, comment your Instagram handle and tell us what FACT means to you in the chat below.
We'll pick 5 lucky winners. Good luck! In the meantime, here's some news about another merch collab.
We're bringing back FACT by Avocado Merch, so be sure to get what you want this weekend.
They have a limited number of merch items, so grab them while you can. Personally, I'm looking at the tote bag.
So
Well,
cute.
look at that. Get it before it's
But everything
out.
else is really good,
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
I really recommend.
All right, now let's go back to the giveaway.
So let's see.
Let's see.
All right, guys. 5 people. These are free tapestries that we're talking about. Look at this. They're so beautiful.
Comment below.
5 of these away right now. So drop your Instagram
ads.
handle.
Say what
so
fact
we
means
can
to you.
give you these awesome fact tapestries. Because if no one else does, then I'm gonna get one. All right. Okay, we got someone. Someone. Anyone? Okay. Our media chairs are putting theirs in.
Oh, lots of
Okay,
people.
okay.
Wow.
Oh my
okay.
gosh. Okay, so
Don't be shy. Put
we
some
have.
more.
Okay, I see. 2, 3, 4, 5. I think we got some winners.
Okay, I think we got some winners.
So we saw the first one that we saw was, hi, this is Ash. So Ashley, congratulations. We'll send you some fact tapestry. And then choose the next one you see.
Next one. Let's go with.
Huh? There's one person before her, Ash. Oh, there's someone before Ashley.
Mia. Mia.
Oh, Mia. Okay, so Mia, Ash. 2, 3 more.
I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing this wrong. Chanel. You get the next one. The third one.
Chanel, Gabrielle, And then the last lucky one.
Ooh. Let's go with Ranvik. Ranvik, let's go with you. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you for participating.
This isn't the only giveaway we'll have. And so please stay tuned for the next one for a chance to win some awesome fact merch. So
Yeah.
Thanks for participating.
Thank
guys
you, everyone.
rock. These are amazing reasons what fact means to you guys. So thanks for participating.
Yep. Oh. Okay. Next, if you're in the Champaign area, come out and support our fundraiser. We'll be having a Kung Fu Tea fundraiser tomorrow, so make sure you grab some boba with your friends and remember to show this flyer when you pay.
I always
Thank
forget
you.
to show the
Yeah,
flyers.
show the flyers.
So show
Make
the
sure you have
flyers,
it on your phone.
please. Yeah. Now, FACT is happy to partner with Asian Student Achievement again this year, and they are a not-for-profit organization to help move Asian and Asian Americans through the pipeline to leadership. If you would like a chance to win one of two $25 Target gift cards, sign up on their diversity-driven job board or sign up at their partner, Juno. For further information, check out ASA's ad on FACT's website.
When people ask me why we started Asian Student Achievement, I think back to my 20 years working in higher education. One story comes to mind in particular, and I will never forget it. We were hiring for an administrator role at a major university, and I was part of the interview process. After interviewing each candidate, one situation came to mind. I asked the candidate, "What are you doing to hire and retain underrepresented staff?" And this is what they said. There weren't any in the pipeline. And I said to myself, I could not believe what they just said, because of course, there were in fact many underrepresented candidates. That was my call to action, to step in and make sure we had more diverse group of applicants. But what if, by the next generation, it didn't have to be that way? What if we could help move Asians, Asian Americans, and our allies into the pipeline to leadership roles?
All right, thank you, ASA. Here are some QR codes you can use to sign up for ASA's job board or their partner, Juno. We'll give you a couple seconds to take a picture. Let me just.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for the awesome support, ASA. Make sure to follow them on social media.
And these social medias.
Yes. And now we present our keynote speaker for tonight. Ryan Gianosa is an alumnus of the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. He has organized the Filipino Americans Coming Together Conference in the past and has attended and presented several Filipino community conferences across the nation. He's also the founder of the Midwest Association of Filipino Americans and formed the Chicago team for bakitwhy.com. In 2015, he helped create the Chicago chapter of Filipino American Unity for Progress, UNIPRO, and served as chapter president.
Let's give a warm welcome to Ryan.
Woo!
Hi, everyone online. My name is Ryan Janicio, he, him, his, and welcome again to a snowy FACT 2021, depending on where you are. I co-coordinated FACT back in 2003 when some of you were born, so it's crazy to see how a literal generation has changed, how community building and activism works since then. I wish I could be there in person. Champaign-Urbana always feels like a second home to me, but at least I can show off some visual aids that wouldn't work quite as well standing on a stage. You can now hear me okay? Okay. I can hear. Okay. Sorry, guys. Sorry, I'll keep going. So anyway, Champaign Urbana always felt like a second home to me, but I can show off some visual aids. Right now, we're in the process of moving in my home, so I found some things like the folder for FECT, the year that I ran it. So there I am with my cool bangs. Maybe next year we can finally all meet up in person if some people would finally get their shots. But yeah, this year's theme is Lakas ng Pagsasama, Strength in Community, something that's timely, partly in response to the rise in anti-Asian sentiment over the past year. But make no mistake, this isn't some recent phenomenon. Historically, Filipino migrant workers in California in the 1920s and 30s faced signs like "No dogs and Filipinos allowed," or "Get rid of all Filipinos or we'll burn this town down," which eventually led to anti-Filipino riots. Now, that was almost a century ago, but anecdotally, while I was a student at Illinois, one of my friends came home to a note on her car telling her to go back where she came from, completely unprompted. But we can't ignore the reality and recency of the situation we're in now. Statistically, things are getting worse. The FBI published that hate crimes against Asians rose 76% in 2020. So, how does community play into all of this? I've learned community is an absurdly powerful word and one that's almost irreplaceable. If you're ever part of any kind of community serving organization and you're writing about an event or a mission statement, you'll run out of words really quickly if you want to avoid using the word community a dozen times. It just encompasses so much that close synonyms like commonality and diaspora, they lose a lot of what you might think defines a community. When I think of community in the context of Filipino Americans, it means a group of people with similar goals and values, which arise from similar upbringings or generationally shared immigration stories. I want to assure all of you listening right now that you are part of our community. Even if you don't identify as Filipino American, I still appreciate you being here this weekend to learn more about our histories and struggles, and hopefully deepening your bonds with some people. If you do identify, don't let anyone try to take that away from you. Even with my resume, I've had people tell me I'm not Filipino because I only speak English, a decision my immigrant parents made because they thought it would give me the greatest chance at success in this country. I've come to understand that they wanted what was best for their kids, but that also doesn't exclude me from being Filipino. We're all fighting many similar battles, and the last thing we need are gatekeepers bringing us down from within. But there is a difference between being a passive and an active community member. Being here at FACT, going to workshops, learning, and most importantly, sharing. That's where the power starts. That's what leads to volunteering with other community members, or joining established groups, or even starting new ones, which I'll get to shortly. Communication, then organization, then action. That's how we can battle back against the issues we've been facing lately. I don't have a silver bullet or anything, but some great progress would be if we can educate against some of the ignorance around COVID, be vocal that we will not tolerate attacks against our friends and family members, and support people who might be dealing with some newfound fears. An individual has a lot of potential, but a community can provide the support to make big things happen. Like, say, elect the first ever Asian American mayors in big cities like Cincinnati or Boston. Today, I'd like to share a kind of oral history of how just a few years ago, a community that probably all of your schools are a part of came together. Most of you are probably familiar with MAFA, the Midwest Association of Filipino Americans. It's the umbrella organization that unites the Filipino student groups across the Midwest, from Minnesota all the way to Pennsylvania, which is like a 14.5-hour drive. MAFA was formally created in 2008, but I want to take you back to a time before smartphones were a thing and we all had the internet in our pockets. and the Facebook was still called the Facebook. There was no MAFA as we know it now. Instead, MAFA was the name of a conference, similar to FACT, but in the spring. That conference is now known as the Midwest Filipino American Summit, or MFAS. So every time I say MAFA going forward, think Spring Phil-Am Conference. Our organizations in the region didn't really collaborate much back then, other than maybe some small events here and there. FACT and MAFA were the only times we really saw each other all together at once. But there was a really specific series of events that led to the birth of the current umbrella association. And I think it's amazing that it owes its formation to multiple individual Filipino student groups seeing a need and forming a community. The 2005 Spring MAFA Conference was held at Michigan State. And to help raise money for it, their Phil-Am organization did what any college organization would do. They threw a fundraiser at a club and they charged admission. But not a club at MSU, but at Ohio State with their Philippine Student Association. And to drum up even more interest, MSU reached out to their friends at Purdue to come, who in turn reached out to their friends at Illinois, which is where I was vice president external at the time of PSA. We were a bit hesitant at first to go, drive an hour and a half to Purdue, then another 4 hours to OSU. This wasn't a weekend long conference. It was literally just a night out. But Purdue was really insistent. The leadership there at the time were like social butterflies who I feel were seeing the big picture before anyone else. So we were eventually convinced, and it was a great time seeing old friends and networking to make new ones. I mentioned Facebook earlier because during this time when it was new and restricted to college students only and not ruining the country, it gave us a way to put faces to names and communicate with each other in a way that email just couldn't do, and made keeping contact with each other a lot easier. This whole trip to OSU really started to plant the seeds for something special. It was different than just going to a conference at a host school and just hanging out with the people you came with. It was 4 schools working toward a common purpose. When the actual MAFA conference came around that year, there was a much bigger effort to try and get people out of their comfort zones in a situation that only happens a few times a year. As a quick aside, it wasn't just these schools starting to work on branching out. FIA at UIC's Battle of the Bamboo was in its infancy. Back then, it wasn't the auditorium hotel filling juggernaut it is now. It started small, like all things do. The first one U of I went to was in a food court. So they didn't have a huge interstate presence yet. But they were doing a great job of bringing together the Chicago area schools in the name of competition. So a year later, 2006, for the 10th anniversary of MAFA, the conference was returning to where it began at Marquette. While there, I went with U of I, and we befriended 2 guys who had come from the University of Washington. They were just doing research on what other conferences were out there, found MAFA, and flew out for it. They were shocked that there were so many Filipinos in Wisconsin and around the Midwest. That's not surprising. That's kind of every West or East Coast Filipinos' reactions. What was surprising is they wanted us to see their version of MAFA, the Northwest Filipino American Student Alliance Conference, or NWFASA, at Portland State University. Of course, this is before Zoom or YouTube, so they asked the MAFA coordinators and the exec board of PSA at Illinois, can we fly you out to Seattle? Of course, we took them up on it. We flew out to Seattle, met a bunch of people there, and road tripped with them to Portland for the conference. And I still have actually the t-shirt. It's kind of faded now, but that's FASA at the UW. So I got the club t-shirt. It's kind of nice. At this time, I had heard of FIND, which is the Filipino Intercollegiate Networking Dialogue. So FIND is basically the East Coast Filipino student umbrella organization. At that point, I hadn't been to one of their conferences. They have conferences just like MAFA, etc. But Purdue had gone out there. They did exactly what those Washington students did, found out what other Philams were doing across the country, and went to see it with their own eyes. Now, here I was on the other side of the country doing the same thing. Sure, this was a conference like FACT or MAFA, but I also got to hear about how the exec boards in the Pacific Northwest would come together periodically to discuss common goals or plan events together. Naturally, the question became, why can't we in the Midwest do this? Our local Philam communities might not have the history or the numbers of people you'd find in LA or New York, but they've been growing. And while our huge distances from each other was definitely a hurdle we'd have to overcome, there was still a sense of commonality. For example, look up Filipino American history classes. They're all West Coast, East Coast, or Hawaii. Outside of family parties, I didn't really have a sense of I didn't really have a sense of Filipino identity growing up, which I feel is common outside of the big cities of the Midwest. There's some shared struggle here. I couldn't let the gift from UW go to waste, so I had to strike while the iron was hot, which meant pulling a few strings. I graduated in spring of 2006, but I asked that fall's FACT coordinators to give me a workshop slot. It would go through lunch, so they needed to budget some food for us, and I wanted every president and vice president who registered for FACT to be forced into that workshop. Oh, and I also asked FACT to fly out the former president of Washington's FASA, and I brought down UIC's former president. So I did ask a lot. But we presented the first conference within a conference that year, or CWAC, QUEC, a workshop that lives on to this day. Fun trivia, that name came from a grade school program I was in called School Within a School, which is gone, but the legacy of SWAS lives on in QUEC. So part of that workshop was reflecting on the realities of being a Filipino American student organization. In 4-ish years, the org has to reach out to someone who potentially barely identifies as Filipino, educate them, give them the skills to be a leader, then watch them leave as the cycle continues. We talked about wanting to make an impact in our local communities and abroad, having a cultural basis to set us apart from general Asian groups, and other common problems and situations our organizations shared. But we made sure to highlight that we could help each other. Some groups only had a few people, some were massive. Some were only a year or two old, some had decades behind them. We just had to start thinking of ourselves as a community. From there, we explained how Washington and groups in that Northwest region would make long drives just to be in a space where they could strategize and plan events. How FIND covers as much, if not more, distance than the Midwest would. It goes from Florida all the way up to New England. My goal was to convince everyone in that room that there were needs to be addressed, and we had examples to follow, but the planning had to begin now with them. There's no parent organization to report to, nor any history to coast on. At the end of the workshop, I collected these slips here. So here's the folder from that year's FACT. I have a bunch of these slips. They have people's and organizations' contact info. So among those represented, Kapwa at Loyola, FASO at Notre Dame, Kaibigan at Northwestern. There's a lot of representation and history in this stack. The best part of these slips is I asked for people's AOL Instant Messenger screen names, which I'm sure none of you ever had. From there, I set up a Google mailing list with all these contacts so we'd stay connected, then built a contact spreadsheet and a simple website. A few months later, I reached out to the Marquette MAFA Chords, who we went to Seattle with, and asked them if it'd be okay if we used the MAFA name for this new collective. They agreed, and everything quack became MAFA. At this point, it's not really my story to tell. My whole goal was to convince everyone that this is possible and get the ball rolling. And a couple years later, the first official MAFA executive board with current students would be formed. Now, this wasn't a community I created out of thin air. It was a combination of recognizing a need, understanding we had the resources and potential, and a bit of good luck and timing. We had about 14 schools represented there at the first quack, and now MAFA has double that many member schools, thanks to the work that first board and group put in. When I was about to graduate college, even though I had spent so much time and energy on PSA and MAFA after it, I didn't really know what else was out there in the real world. PSA was my first exposure to a Filipino American community that I felt a part of. Things are different now, so I hope that you all have an idea of what's going on out there, especially if you're graduating soon. Throughout this weekend, if there's a speaker or group who really inspires you, reach out to them and see if you can get involved in their cause. But I did want to spend some time to shout out some organizations, at least in the Chicago area, that would love to have your energy and insights. So there's a youth-led group that originated in the Philippines fighting for national democracy, Anagbayan, to help fight for racial equity, Asian Americans Advancing Justice. For anyone interested in law, they're the Filipino American Lawyers Association. For preserving and spreading Philam history, there's FANHS, FANHS, or the Filipino American National Historical Society. They're also the ones who literally they deemed that October would be Filipino American History Month. So we have that group to thank for that. For creating projects to advance the relationships between the US and the Philippines, including going abroad to make those projects a reality, it's PhilPro. Another group that started in the Philippines, fighting for the liberation of oppressed Filipino women, Gabriela. There's a group for civic and national affairs, and anyone looking to get into politics. There's NAFA, NAFFAA, or the National Federation of Filipino American Associations. And I have to shout out this group. They're striving for a more unified and engaged Filipino America through action, leadership, development, and advocacy. Filipino American Unity for Progress, UNIPRO. I am on the board of directors for it, so I am a bit biased. I know I missed a lot of other great orgs. And what I just told you all, they were just some quick one-liners, so I didn't get anyone's full mission statement across. But I've always wanted to stress that community work doesn't have to stop just because you finished college. Now, your responsibilities will definitely multiply really quickly. There's fighting and holding down a job, maybe thinking about settling down, and just general adulting is a lot to process. And even I've had to take a few breaks from community work here and there. Self-care is always important. But there's also always work to be done, especially as these past couple of years have shown. The post-conference buzz might be a little different with everything virtual, but I urge all of you to share anything you learn or feel this weekend with your friends and family. Within a week at most. Holidays are right around the corner and you don't want to lose all this good momentum. Communication is really what leads to community, and who knows from where inspiration might strike. Thank you all, and have a great fact.
Two, one. Thank you so much, Ryan. That was an amazing speech. And sorry again for those technical difficulties. Thank you for picking that up right after that happened. But now we're going to open up the floor for some questions anyone here may have. So please use the chat to put any questions you have for Ryan, whether it's for MAFA or his time here at U of I too. So anything at all, we'll try to get to your questions. But for now, we have a few questions for ourselves. So take it away, Abby.
So did you face any hardships in leadership in any of position that you were in, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, the biggest issues you'll find with leadership, it doesn't really apply so much to college groups, I found, but it definitely manifests itself in its own way, I should say, is burnout. I didn't address it at all in what I said, uh, but it takes a lot out of you doing community work. It's a lot of mental, emotional, sometimes physical. Um, like for me personally, uh, I was a part of a website called bucketwide.com for a bit, and there's one point where I was like driving 6 hours to Ohio State, and my body was just like, you know what, we need to take a break from this. And it happens to everyone, and it's the constant struggle for a lot of these organizations that I mentioned. Um, so it's not something that I've faced, and I don't have a great answer for how to fix it. That could be a whole workshop in it of itself. But it's always good to be cognizant that it's something that's going to affect everybody. I've seen chapters of other groups come and go. I've seen student groups come and go. Um, and it's always a tricky thing to balance. So I still face that today with some of the groups I'm involved with, but it's something to definitely be aware of and try to manage.
Yeah. Personally, when do you face burnout? What is your way to like de-stress, and what do you do to take your mind off of things?
Yeah. So where I am now, that's a good question. How do I manage my own burnout? It's just taking breaks, making sure you have a good core of people that you can depend on, and once you have that confidence and you know that, okay, if I take a break, things aren't going to fall apart. And other people can kind of pick up the slack, and then you can do the same when it's kind of your turn to do that. It's about taking care of yourself, because it could get to the point where you burn out and you don't want anything to do at all with the community. Like, you know what, I want to focus on my work and life, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it's also, if you want to stay engaged, you kind of have to check yourself every once in a while to make sure you're not going down a swirling toilet and getting stuck there.
And how did you start becoming involved in your community and obtaining leadership positions?
Yeah, so kind of like I mentioned, PSA was really the first Filipino group or community I really felt a part of. When I went to high school in the Chicago suburbs, and there were Filipinos there, but I didn't hang out with them much. But I kind of made a concerted effort when I knew I was going to go to U of I. I'm like, I've heard about PSA, and just in general, I want to get to know this part of me that I was never really aware of. And I really fell in love with it, and I kind of poured everything I had into it, probably a little too much. But hey, I graduated, so whatever. But yeah, from there, it's just I saw things that I wanted to fix as part of that group, and so I made those changes. And then with MAFA, like I just mentioned, I saw a gap, and I wanted to fill that gap. And that's kind of how all my other projects from there have been. It's, hey, there's potential here. All we need is just to kind of put our heads together and work together.
Gotcha. Thanks. We have a question in the chat from actually our fact cords. So they say, since we are reaching the second and third generations of Phil-Ams following the mass migration of Filipinos during the 90s, how do you suggest keeping up with Phil-Am engagement if people feel disconnected from the culture?
So I guess, so in fact, I think who would they be asking this about? Like current students or people who are older? I guess that's kind of hard because you're reading a question.
I guess current students. I think a big topic that I guess we all, like us here as students, have talked with each other is about like how close we feel to our Filipino identity, and now that some of us are first generation, but some of us are second or third generation from when our first relatives came to the United States. How do you suggest to keep up that relationship with our identity and sticking to our roots?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually. It's kind of funny. You said mass migration in the 90s. Like, I guess I'm older than that. But it's something that I've heard in other workshops before and other people advocate for. It's talking about your histories and not necessarily like, you know, Filipino history, Filipino American history, which is important, but your family's history, right? Like, maybe, maybe your parents didn't come over from the Philippines, but maybe your grandparents did, or some other relative. And it's kind of a weird thing because like you don't really talk about that kind of stuff when you're with your family, right? You're just kind of catching up and like eating food. But it's worth it to really make the effort to understand what they went through and how things were, how they had to adapt to come to this country. So right now, actually, like my wife is pregnant with our first kid, and I'm super excited.
Congrats.
Thank you. And for me, it's like I need to make sure that this kid knows where they came from, and they don't take any of this for granted. And so it's a lot of just sharing history, and that's kind of what I try to do with my speech a little bit today. But I think once you get that understanding, then the interest grows and the understanding grows, and then things just flow from there.
Good answer. Thank you.
Thank you for the insight. That was really nice.
We have one more question.
From Gabe. What would you say is something Phil-Am student orgs should focus on in this current moment of history? I'm sure the needs and focuses of student orgs have changed exponentially since your time at U of I.
Yeah, I mean, when I was back there, social media was just growing. It was just a thing. It wasn't even called social media back then. It was just Facebook, and then MySpace was kind of dying. It's really hard for me to comment about what to do in the time of COVID. This is something, it's been over a year, but there's no way I can understand what you all are going through, and it stinks. And I don't, no matter how old you are, you're processing it at your stage of life you're at. So I can't really say to that exactly what to do, but I'm definitely open to talking it out or working through it. If that's, if it's something that we need to talk about as a larger group. But there's so much, even though I guess everything was shut down and maybe things are opening up a little bit, but there's so much technology out there and sharing of things that we didn't have back then, right? So many Instagram accounts or TikTok accounts, or I don't know, anything else out there. And, leveraging those while we have to, and staying up to date, and again, sharing and communicating with other people and spreading that. If you have to talk over Zoom meetings or emails, so be it. But just making sure that communication doesn't die out, I think is really important in this time.
Thank you. Yeah, so that was really good answers and equally amazing speech. That is unfortunately all the time we have for tonight, but we want to thank you so much for taking the time to join us and answering all the questions tonight. We really enjoyed having you. Before saying bye, do you have any closing remarks for our audience?
Just stay safe, treat each other well, and again, have a great fact. And again, if you learn or hear anything that really resonates with you, there's so much stuff in life coming up. There's like Thanksgiving, there's holidays, there's probably exams, there's non-conference life waiting for you, but try to just share all that and get it out of your system into the world before you kind of have to focus in again on that stuff.
Perfect.
Wow. Thank you so much for the advice. And thank you again for being here. We look forward to seeing you and working with you again in the future.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you,
Thanks
Ryan. Give a
round of applause.
Round of applause.
All right. You want to do just a few more things before we close? All right. So before we sign off, we'd like to give a special thanks to Collective Hustle for getting in touch with us and our amazing headliner. Reveal.
If you didn't know already, Jeff Burnett will be performing at our variety show this Sunday. Woo! Make sure you attend V-Show this Sunday at 5 p.m. CST to watch some amazing performances. We have a bunch of acts lined up, so you guys better not miss this.
Yeah, we worked really hard this semester, but we're really excited to show you guys what we have in store. All right. Well, this concludes our presentation for the opening session. Want to have updates on FACT? May be interested in free merch or a personal shout out? Follow us on Instagram and Facebook through our handles here, and check out the FACT website. Also, be sure to tag us in your posts throughout the week of FACT.
Thank you again to everyone who joined us tonight, and we hope you enjoy FACT this weekend.
Have a great night, everyone. Take care.
Bye.